Hello and welcome to Buzz Banter. I'm Das Hat.
I'm Sam.
And today we're bringing you a video game review for Spec Ops: The Line.
Hold the line.
So, this was a game that, well, I don't know, there wasn't really too much preamble for this game. You didn't really hear too much about this game coming into it. There were a couple of tech demos with, like, the sand mechanics, and I think that was its selling point. Like, that's all they advertised for it, really.
Well, I think this was really supposed to be one of those, we're just gonna shove this out, make money, and then forget about it.
Yeah.
And the creators ended up doing something different.
Yeah, well, and basically the game takes place in the not-too-distant future, essentially a series of sandstorms racks Dubai. The United Arab Emirates, the country that Dubai is situated in, see? Educated. They basically just deny any outside aid because they're arrogant like that and they've got lots of money. So, of course they can't deal with the problem themselves, and like more and more massive sandstorms come. They end up like burying the city. And they create like this impenetrable sort of storm wall of just like constant sandstorms around the city. So people can't leave. Essentially an American regiment is sent in to Dubai to try and evacuate people. When they're called back, the leader of the regiment, a man by the name of Conrad, he refuses his orders and says, no, we're going to stay here, and we're going to save these people, and we're going to get them out. And then no one comes out, and we don't hear anything from them. So you basically play as a Delta operative going into Dubai to assess the situation, help with the evacuation, or call in for backup, or whatever needs to be done. Just basically find out exactly what happened to the 33rd Regiment, and what is the state of Dubai now. And like it starts off like your regular sort of like military.
Yeah, the gameplay is incredibly boring.
Yeah, it's nothing unique at all. It's very like they have like the kind of cool sort of slow motion headshot whenever you get a headshot, but it doesn't really factor in because you slow down.
It's also very stiff too. It's a very stiff shooter.
Yeah, like you need. I usually don't have to play around with the look sensitivity in this. I found myself adjusting it a little bit just to get used to it. Your snap fire like auto aim and everything, if you've got it activated. On this, it's really weak compared to other games. It doesn't.
But the gameplay is not the draw for this game. It is the plot,
which you don't expect, because it hits you out of left field.
Well, it kind of slowly builds up because it's like something kind of sinister's going on.
Yeah, it slowly builds up where you see like a couple of people start shooting at you, a couple of Americans, and you have to return fire. And of course the other two members of your team, Lugo and Adams, they have issue with that, but you being team leader, you've got to keep...
One has more issues than others.
True. I did like that all three of the characters that you see for the majority of the game, they have their own independent characteristics and everything. They really do come across as their own people, and you find yourself caring a little bit about them.
Just a little, but it's kind of interesting. I think one of the drawbacks was the fact that Nolan North was voicing the main character, and I'm just like, why is Drake in this game?
Drake apparently got a lot more serious once he started pumping iron a bit more.
Yeah. Well,
he just got hardcore.
According to the lead writer, Nolan North was scripted to be in this like way before he like even did like Uncharted 2. Like that's how in planning this game was.
Yeah, in large part that planning was building up the Dubai scape, getting all of like the locations and everything accurately. One of my cousins actually lived in Dubai for a number of years. Going through the game, he was mentioning to me, it's just like, I had an apartment in that building and I used to smoke shisha in that one like two like buildings down. It's like the exact street. So like they have the proper like map overview of Dubai. The locations that you go to are like blasted locations of the real place.
Well, like I said in the interview with the lead writer, the one thing they were just told, they weren't told really anything, is like just make a military shooter in Dubai.
Yeah.
That was pretty much all they were told. Given to any other developer, I'm pretty sure that it just would have been a Call of Duty clone.
Yeah.
But apparently with this one, they decided to base it off the book Heart of Darkness. If you don't know what Heart of Darkness is, it is the book that Apocalypse Now is based off of.
The movie, which, again, if you haven't seen, stop watching this video, go watch the movie, it's very good, read Heart of Darkness, it's fantastic.
The one thing they all have in common, more than just being based off each other, was the fact that this movie, this game, it's not fun.
No.
Nor is it meant to be fun. It's meant to be, the key word now is engaging. This is my new favorite word of the millennium.
Yeah. Well, it has become the tagline for video games recently. But yes, it is very engaging.
Yeah.
Like you get into the flow of it. Now, early on in the game, it starts off as like your sort of standard sort of, okay, go in, shoot people and everything. Everyone's yelling at one another.
A little bit of gruesome.
A little bit of gruesome and everything, but you know what? I played Black Ops.
It doesn't even have to be Black Ops. You can play Borderlands, and that's like far more gruesome than that.
I know.
Run over people as a daily occurrence.
Yeah, because well.
But anyways, back to this game. This game, as I was playing this game, I know what part we're thinking of, and we're not going to mention it because that'd be way too spoiler. Or do you want to mention it?
I won't mention it particularly. This game basically sort of, like, out of the development team, the basic idea was that, you know what, all of these other games like Call of Duty and the various clones of that, they embellish warfare to a fantastic degree. They basically ritualize loving warfare and being the hero and
glorifying it, glorifying death, glorifying killing people with guns.
Yeah, and
rewarding it, making you feel good about it.
Exactly, and this game starts off with that. You have a couple of like hesitations where you're just like, alright, I thought we were sent here to rescue people, we're just killing a couple of insurgents.
Which would have been like a terrible game.
Exactly, but eventually that turns into killing American soldiers, killing rogue American soldiers, killing CIA agents, like, because you get caught up in this confluence of the chaos that is Dubai, and basically because you don't know who's fighting whom, and where everyone's loyalties lie, you basically end up against everybody for a section of this game, and things just gradually go from bad to worse to terrible to horrible.
It really gets terrible really fast.
And at the midpoint of the game, there's one section that after you play through it and everything,
you just feel disgusting afterwards.
You feel like a horrible person. Now, the choice is taken out of your hands.
Yeah, it actually is, too.
There's a couple of areas in this game where you actively are given a choice as to what you're going to do.
Sometimes without you even knowing it. You don't even realize you may have a choice.
Exactly. It's a psychologically heavy game for the player, because when it doesn't award you, because it doesn't immediately tell you, press LB to do this, or press RB to do this. It just goes, this is the situation, respond to it.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it tells you a lot about yourself and everything. So, at one point, there are two people strung up, a man who stole water, a capital offense, and another one, a soldier who was sent to arrest him, and in the process, killed that man's family. Now, both of them should be executed according to the martial law that's been enforced in Dubai, and you are given the choice of which one dies. And basically,
your response to that is actually pretty interesting. I let them both go.
Same here, because there's snipers situated, and you're told, choose.
And the snipers aren't for you, it's against them.
And the snipers are for them. So you can shoot one, shoot the other, or you can actually just shoot the snipers and go, I'm not taking part in this. In which case you immediately come under fire and everything. But because it doesn't present any of the choices to you, it's up to you to respond to it however you deem necessary. And there's a couple of sections like that. We won't get too much into spoilers, but the game basically, when it first takes choice out of your hands and it shows you the consequences of acting without thinking, it just makes you feel like a horrible person. And the game, like, gradually builds on its own sort of setup and everything to a fantastic ending. Multiple conclusions to the story. So
about 4 that we got.
Yeah, the game is very brief. Like after you play it the first time and you know what's coming, you can run
like 10 hours.
Well. Actually, after I ran through it the first time, the first run through took me about 7 hours.
Oh, okay.
Because, like, I was being careful and everything, I didn't know what to expect. You're always...
I died a lot, so that's why it took me longer.
Same here, there were a couple of sections where I was just like, what do I do? How do I deal with this? Yeah. But as soon as you've done it the first time, my second run through, I got through it in 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, after you get, like, all the little picks. So the other little thing was, like, if you pick up all the little bits of intel... You find out so many interesting things. It's not like to do with the story. It's just like what people were doing at this time.
Exactly.
The big one being a torturer and how he was able to become a torturer.
Yeah. Basically, the 33rd Regiment eventually goes to war against itself, and there's basically a log of this guy that had to learn how to torture people, and the way that he learned was he himself being tortured.
He has to, in order for him to use those techniques, he had those techniques inflicted upon himself.
Basically to see exactly how far he can push the human body and what people's breaking points would be. It's amazingly well done. It borrows a lot from, like, current things. You'll see a weapon that comes up again and again called white phosphorus. For those of you who didn't take chemistry, in high school chemistry, did you ever do the magnesium burning experiment?
No, I didn't, but I guess the easiest way to explain it to anyone who doesn't, it's like napalm almost.
It's actually a lot worse. Napalm basically just catches fire on the air and it contacts things and it melts them. Phosphorus is different. Phosphorus is on your table of elements, it's on the far side. So it's an incredibly reactive element. If you ever actually get your hands on phosphorus, first of all, you can't touch it to skin, it'll immediately burn you.
Wasn't that was like in Fight Club, they were using white phosphorus to create the scars?
No, that was...
that was Lie.
That was Lie. Which is biologically, chemically reactive with saliva. But phosphorus, however, is an I'm going to go incredibly nerdy on this.
Yes.
Basically,
I've noticed.
The outer ring of a light is shy of a full set of 8 by 1. It's an outer ring of 8. Of
this
7.
This is the technical explanation.
And as a result, it'll bond to other molecule. Phosphorus atoms will bond to other atoms and react with them very quickly because they're trying to just get that one electron. To complete their outer covalent, to have that covalent bond.
The end result being a grease fire?
The end result is basically, phosphorus was used by the ancient Greeks and Romans as something called fire on the water, where they would basically throw stones laced with phosphorus, or just phosphorus, and as soon as it would come in contact with any substance, it would immediately explode and, like, start burning through it. So white phosphorus is essentially a purified form of phosphorus to the point where it explodes and burns in the air. Now, according to the Geneva Convention, you cannot use this weapon. There have been documentations of this being used throughout the Middle East and in the wars across Israel and Palestine and the Gaza Strips. And there's been huge controversy over it, and you see exactly why that is in this game.
It is I can see why immediately, just from playing that game.
It is absolutely horrific what this stuff can do, and you are forced into using it.
It's a chemical burn,
but
on a massive scale.
And it is just horrifying to behold, the level of destruction that it does. You play through it in the game after you see it used, you have it used against you, you use it yourself, and you just feel terrible.
Well, actually, you feel terrible after you use
it.
But when you are using it, you're like, yeah! I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
And then right afterwards, I'm like, oh, I'm a terrible human being.
Yeah, because they basically make you walk through the field after you've used it, and you see all of the soldiers as they're like moaning and
you know
dying.
what? Some of them are still alive, and that's almost like another choice because you could put the guy out of his misery.
Exactly. There's like no achievement to it or anything, but you feel so terrible.
You could also do it during the trench scenes too.
Exactly.
There's like 3 guys alive.
There's a horrible amount of death and just the realities of war in this video game. You feel like such a bad person in it, and the loading screens, of all things, they win you over. Because the loading screens in the beginning of the game are basically just like, alright, remember that you'll remember to change your clip before you run out. Most weapons have 1 round left in the chamber. It's like, okay, it's giving you like the usual little hints that the loading screens do. After you hit the break point in this game, and it turns into that dark sort of, these are the realities of war and you're a horrible person, it actually says, like, how many Americans have you killed today? Do you still feel like do you still feel like a hero? You're the good guy here. Your hand was forced, right?
Yeah. I like just the fact that it added the word right just completely changes the sentence.
The game is fantastic. Taking choice out of your hands at critical moments and giving you choices that you weren't aware you had. The game has a couple of endings. You can go back and just replay a single chapter if you just want to go for the achievement and just get that ending and everything. But the consequences to your actions and everything and how people react, at one point you're given the choice. A guy sort of betrays you and your men. You're given a gun with 1 bullet. He begs you to kill him so he doesn't burn to death. And, well, I put him out of his misery because I don't... After the whole white phosphorus thing, I just couldn't bear to see someone, like, do that again.
Yeah.
Because it hits you on that emotional level. You cannot see it again. But just to get the achievement and everything, I was just like, alright, I'll just walk away.
I remember that scene now. I'm like, oh, I left the guy.
I left the guy, and then...
Well, I left the guy, you...
I executed the first time. The second time around and everything,
no, I let him burn.
Because I wanted the achievement. I let him burn, but I couldn't stay there and watch. Because, you have the option of staying there and watching. But, I was just walking away, and you hear him burning and crying out in pain, and I was just, I felt so terrible about myself. It's just like, for an achievement, I did this. There was someone in a studio that had to listen to what people sound like when they're burning alive and try to recreate that sound into a microphone. Oh, God! That was not worth the Microsoft points. It's
an interesting game. It's an interesting game. It's really... It plays on your psyche a lot.
Yeah.
It really brings in the heart of darkness, as it were.
It does. You get incredibly immersed in this game.
Yeah. Surprisingly.
And it takes you... You can't be on guard with this game, because it just constantly undermines what your preconceptions of this is. No, and it's a fantastic game because of it.
It is a fantastic game. The sad part is, unfortunately, it's not doing well financially, so a lot of people aren't going to get to play it for their own choices, but...
Seriously, pick up the game. If you like shooters, it's your average shooter. The gameplay isn't really all that...
Don't expect fun, though.
But don't expect like a fun sort of, I'm the hero, haha, Rambo. That's not what this game is all about. This is one of those games where it's meant to be sort of more of an artistic piece, and not in the way that you think like Psychonauts or...
It's almost a little satirical at some points,
yes,
in a very underhanded way to that genre. Because, like I said, I was feeling when you're using the white phosphorus, you're like, haha, yeah! And then right afterwards, it makes you feel terrible about that.
Exactly, because you need to walk through it and you need to see the consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing. Unlike in other shooters, you see the consequences of your actions in this game, and they're quite viscerally done.
Every action
I applaud it. It's done. It's critically doing amazingly well.
Yeah, it's critically. It's really good.
The only down points is just the same-ish gameplay.
Yeah, that was like my one criticism of it. It was just like the gameplay is really boring.
Yeah, the gameplay's really boring. They could have done more with the whole sand mechanic thing, but the fact that it's there at all is, I think, a nice thing.
The sand actually looks really nice. It's not the best sand I've ever seen. The best sand I've ever seen is Journey.
Yeah.
But
Actually, a nice little piece of the gameplay mechanic, because you are in like half-buried desert almost throughout this entire game. Whenever you use a grenade or an explosive device, you actually have plumes of sand that come up and blind your opponents, which I thought was a very nice touch. I'm glad that they implemented that, and it's a nice little...
There's actually a lot of little touches like that.
Yeah.
The fact that the one chamber round thing was kind of a nice touch.
Yeah, the one round left in the chamber is a nice touch. You see over the course of the game how, like, you're getting shot up, you're in this rough and tumble environment, you're walking through the desert, through a war zone, and you see it reflected on the faces of your squad mates and yourself as, like, you're getting cut up and patched up and everything as you're tumbling around all this horrible landscape.
It's amazing how much death you deal out, though, as 3 guys.
Yes. And that is the one thing, you're still the sort of Rambo-type character,
Yeah.
but it's Rambo seeing the horror of what he's done, and it's very, very well done.
It's between Rambo 3 and 4.
Yes.
Apparently, that's what happened to Rambo after Rambo, the 2005 Rambo, I guess.
So the next movie is literally just going to be him in a rocking chair.
He did go to a farm at the end.
It's just like...
that's pretty much what happens at the end of this game, but it's really interesting. Like,
there's a couple of different endings, all of them fantastic.
Some of them relate to each other. But.
Yes, they do kind of relate to each other, and there is a little bit. There's a little something that the creators of the game added in. We'll post a link to the video. Check the game out, play through it once or twice, get the endings, and make the choices that you think you can make. And then check out this video. It'll break down the game a little bit more for you, and it'll explain a couple of things that we weren't able to explain today. But until then, Spec Ops The Line, check out the game.
Check out the game.
Until next we meet, I'm Das Hat.
I'm Sam.
And we will see you when we see you.
See ya.